Let's go. Welcome to the Scott Outpost Investigators podcast. I'm your host, Softy Wage, and we have a special cast of crew here for you guys today. And we'll start with our co-host, Thirsty Blood.
Greetings and hello, everybody.
Our co-host, Savadra.
Hello, hello.
And our special guest, Tur Jimmy Jr.
Oh, hello.
Today is episode 17, and we're going to be talking about Deadly Assault from January 2nd to the 16th, season 27. And then we're going to talk about Shiyu, which started on the 29th, and it lasting until the 9th. And we're going to mainly end with that, because we normally start with that, because we got a lot to talk about for that subject.
Indeed.
Yep. It's going to be a big one. You notice we don't have a third tertiary off-topic today. That's because we're already expecting this to be long just with the first two. So strap in. Get yourselves comfortable.
Yep. So, Jimmy, start us off with Deadly Assault and Primordial Nightmare. How do you think of the new boss?
I think it's pretty good. It's a fun boss. I think its mechanic, it's weird because of its late attack at the end and having no flashes. It's kind of hard for some players.
I agree with that. Like, it took me maybe 10 tries to get that rotation down for the first part.
Yeah, I don't think the game explains it very well.
I mean, if you're used to playing Tower, you get used to it, but at the same time, it's very weird for it to be happening in a Deadly Assault.
Yeah.
It was an interesting surprise indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I was happy with it. I was also caught off guard with the lack of flashes, but I think after looking at it, the majority of it is completely fine. I feel like the first tell for the first swing is kind of desynced overall, at least from what I can see. At least when it does the big swing that comes down to initiate the control skill, it's it's later than you think it is, or I guess the swing is longer than I feel like it should be, just slightly, maybe barely half a second longer, but that's reaction time,
There's an indicator a little bit for it, an animation indicator. It starts slow and it gets faster, and it's interesting. You have in the middle sector is basically the same rhythm, always at the same time, and then the last one is also delayed again. So you have to get used to it. And you started with a dodge, and then you have to parry. And this was something I found out after a few tries, because I was like, I can't do anything in this control mode. Dodge doesn't work either. So I was like, what do I have to press? And at the first two times, my parry didn't work, because if you are too fast or too slow, you will miss one or two after sequences after that. So it's like you can't just spam it. You have to hit the rhythm. So since there is no flash indication, I can start with this. Watch at the enemy, especially on her sword. With that, usually you get a pretty good rhythm what she does, our nightmare.
Yeah. In case anyone's little lost and it hasn't played or seen the boss properly yet, the Primordial Nightmare, the new story boss for 2.5, is unique in two ways. This is one of its two major unique mechanics. At the start of the Deadly Assault fight, it will do what is called a control skill, and the game goes over this, but it does it in that usual game very bad way where it's trying to tell you things in tutorials while you're trying to process how to fight it, and then it interrupts the flow, or you have to read it in the middle of the things, and it's bad. But basically, during the control skill, you cannot use ultimates, and you cannot use a dodge more than once per agent. and the control skill attacks do not have flash indicators, so you have to basically watch the tells and properly react to them, or like study the boss and their telegraph. Another thing is that when you do the dodge, it will prompt a quick time event type of thing that is not a perfect dodge or like a dodge counter, but is what's called a perfect counter in the game. And this is important for a small distinction of you can do either of a perfect counter or do a defense assist for each of the attacks. Evasive assists also work. It's not defensive exclusive, and that's great. But you have to do that for its sequence of roughly 5 attacks. And then on the last attack, if you do a evasive assist or a perfect counter, then you get additional decibels. And a lot of additional decibels. Like, I think over like 500, 600, something like that, I think is around the proper number. But I tried it with Yitari at some point the other day, and I think it may be closer to like 800, maybe 1,000. But if you do specifically the dodge or the evasive assist, you get additional decibels for the counter afterwards. And when you do parry that last skill, if you parry all of it, you get what is called shutdown. And that is a like unique thing where it's like an instance of damage causes a bit of a stagger, and is also the entirety of the performance points pretty much for the Deadly Assault fight in specific. So that's pretty much all there is to the control skill.
It's like, if I add up to that, it's like over 3 million damage when I had my sword.
Yeah.
So it's actually
the numbers
pretty
look
strong.
big, and they are. We can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. Also, what I noticed, it is always at the same time, around after 10 seconds. And for the animation indication, you will get an ether, a violet ether shockwave on the ground from her, followed up with a loading animation of her with a violet light on the nightmare enemy. And this is because I have a video right now open, and it says, because some people can't really, read during fighting because they're focused on the enemy. So it says, use perfect dodge or perfect assist to avoid the first phase of control skill damage. This is basically her first attack. I haven't parried this one up till now, so I always dodged it, and it always worked on me.
Yeah.
And after this initial attack, which has quite like 5 seconds of loading time before the first hit, you enter the next phase. This is the parry sequence we have mentioned before. And the text says, watch the enemy's moves closely and press the parry button at the right moment to counter their consecutive attacks. You have a little time frame window, so it's not that exact. But she always looks at you with her back first, and then swings her sword from behind. And this one is the first attack that loads a little bit. You have to be a little bit patient before you press the parry. Then she follows up with the consecutive slashes, which are 3 of them. And then she has another delayed load attack where she's in the sky. Has again a violet light, and she swings her sword from the head downwards to you. And with this, if you parry this one as well, you get the shutdown animation if you do it successfully. Yeah.
It's all the same every time. Always happens at the same time. It's
Exactly.
like,
Same
takes a little bit
timing.
of getting used to is the primary part.
True. Don't press buttons like a maniac. Just be controlled. It's a controlled state, so you have to take control over this state, not the
Exactly.
But yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Jimmy?
No.
Yeah, I just heard noise, so I just wasn't sure. Otherwise, that's all the very beginning of the fight. Let's talk about the rest of the fight.
There's so much.
Like
Um,
it is a new boss. It's probably the most complicated boss we have to date, I think. One of the two. Uh
Yeah.
but yeah, it's also got a bunch of unique properties because it's, you know, the the big bad.
should we
So let's
start with the
Start
fact that it
with
has
the main
two
stats.
miasma phases, or it splits as at miasma phase?
Yeah. So the second major mechanic that it has is that the uh pr- the boss will go in and out of miasma field and activate miasma shield uh at specific days breakpoints. They're not health related, they're not time related, they're specific days breakpoints. So on our normal state, you can deal days to the boss, and it has lower defense than normal as well. So that's like kind of important because it means the impact of the miasma shield is kind of less overall for everything not named rupture. But like during the normal phase, you can do the normal things. It'll do a set of attacks, and you can get up to a certain day's breakpoint, like up to 50 days, I believe it is. I haven't seen the proper numbers yet, but once it reaches that day's breakpoint, it will switch to miasma field, and that is like it activates the miasma shield, and it stops taking days entirely, and you have to destroy the miasma shield. Uh, it will then also swap back and forth between them, like starting from this point, depending on how long you take. Like it just doesn't take days during the miasma shield, and like it is still otherwise a completely normal miasma shield. With the sole exception that when you reach 99 days on the Primordial Nightmare per stun, if you haven't broken the miasma shield, it will switch back to it and not leave until you break the shield. So that pretty much equates to every stun requires you to get one purify because of the way the day's like mechanics works. It kind of locks you from doing too much days in order to get a stun early or anything like that. Like you're basically forced to break the miasma in order to get a stun. That's all. That's the second part of its major mechanic.
I didn't realize how scripted it was, but it really is interesting how, like, I've never seen a boss, or we've never had a boss before that went out of miasmic state in the middle.
Well, and lore makes sense, but
Yeah.
we won't talk about that right now. But it is unique mechanically. It's the most they've done with miasma as a whole, and the whole distinction of the miasma field just kind of existing as a separation of the miasma shield. Although they still both exist at the same time, but it's just the boss can manipulate it a lot more. The two major breakpoints to worry about are above 50 days and at 99 days per stun. This also makes like stun combos really different for every DPS, I think, because you're just kind of like loaded up on energy for every stun. And like specifically with Dial In, I think with M0, it's a lot easier to get like triple ult stun combos on the Primordial Nightmare. But it's interesting.
Yeah, her stun window is also generally longer. I think it's one of the longest stun windows we have completely in the game of any boss. Combined that with her lower defense and higher HP, therefore, she is also specifically for certain agents. And most of the time, you will only get two real stun windows, and you can clutch a third stun window, but it's very hard. What you would have to do is being able to kill her complete miasma in the first setting, which is apparently possible. I have seen players do it to annihilate all the miasma and skipping the shield phase. I think this should be, as far as I've seen it, it is possible if you do that. But you need 2 or 3 ults for that one. So you have to be really quick and also have a lot of energy. It's not possible with every, I think, agent in the roster, is what I've seen. And it's difficult to do.
Yeah, I thought it was
Jimmy,
weird that going with the lower stuns because I'm so used to doing 3. But then again, I'm
Yeah.
used to playing other characters than Yeshengguan, and it was just trying to get used to a new character and a new boss at the same time really made it a little bit difficult. But Jimmy,
Understandable.
what do you think
Yeah.
about the new miasmic phase?
Or how did you approach it?
I honestly haven't fought this boss that much, but I think it's good so far. I think I like what they're doing with it. The only problem I have with it is how long it takes to get to the first stun for some characters. Because with Yeshengguang, I could break the first miasma shield like pretty much instantly, like at the start. But with other characters, I don't think that's possible, and it would just take really long to get to the first stun. And a lot of the other characters are like burst characters, and they want to do all their damage in a stun.
I can agree with that in a couple of ways, but in another couple of other ways, I think it's actually easier than it may look. Because I haven't pulled Yeshengguang and I don't plan to, so my only major competitive teams so far for like getting both the clear and like anywhere close to above 30k have been both Crit Bernice and Nekomata. And that might sound like a shock, but in both of those teams that I've gotten clears on, I have managed to get 3 purifies. Not stuns, but 3 purifies. And it's like, I think that's going to be the kind of end all of routing the boss, is going for 3 stuns on the boss overall. Pretty much every fight that you, or every like team that you take into the fight, regardless of whether or not you have a stunner, and like this also goes for anomaly teams too. And I know that sounds a little crazy because it's got reduced anomaly damage, but I have also fought it with anomaly. And I think every team is pretty easily capable of getting 2 stuns in the entire fight. The major problem is the stun speed and how much days you're doing out of, like, on the normal state. Like, you do really have to prioritize doing days in the normal state in order to accelerate the perma miasma mode and then, like, get the ability to break the shield as fast as possible. You then also have to worry about the risk factor of using, say, a stunner ultimate to either deal days in the normal state or break the miasma shield in the miasma state. And it's a weird balance. Sometimes it's better to do one or the other. In my Nekomata team that I mentioned, I went with Nekomata, Dial-In, Astra, and I got like 24k as my best run so far. But in the run that I got 3 purifies, I have been using Dial-In's ult to deal days on the normal state to get to 99 and then just farm parries to break my Miasma Shield. And on my Crit Bernice run, I pretty much did the opposite, where I just held on to Lighter and Yuzuha's ults to break the shield as fast as I could the first time it appeared. So it was interesting.
I want to say right now, in the background, you're seeing my horrible gameplay, Yeshengguan, and I was very much surprised on how much damage the Nightmare did, because yeah, she hits a little bit harder than I think other bosses have.
Well, it wouldn't be the big bad if she didn't prove to be a challenge.
True. But
Right.
it's been a while since I've had a agent die on me in the middle, and in a deadly assault.
There is
Okay,
another
Sid.
thing particular to Yi Guang for this boss, in that Yi Guang's enlightened mind state. She has like the big like white hair state that's called enlightened mind state. When she's doing attacks during that state, and basically at any point that she's dealing her special element damage, honed edge, she has increased miasma purification rate, which basically means her attacks just break the shield faster than most basic attacks would. So she has an easier time in that regard because she's able to get more purifies easier. But that also implies that like you're playing around your stunner a little bit better, which you're usually not doing with Ye Guang. She's an interesting character.
Yeah,
I'm-
she's very field hoggy. She wants a lot of field time.
I do thank you,
Did you
Sabadra,
use-
for saying to use double support for her instead of me using a Chingy stunner.
Yeah, Chingy is a very questionable choice. They both want a lot of field time. Ye Guang just wants a lot more field time. But yeah,
What were you gonna say, Jimmy?
Nothing. I think I cut off blood. What were you gonna say?
Who? Yeah.
Oh no, I was just asking if you summoned Ye Shunguang.
Yeah, I did. I have her in her weapon.
Oh, nice. And did you already 65 gate the nightmare?
No, not yet. I don't have Zhao's engine, so I don't think that'll be happening. And my deaths
Dang.
are also really bad.
I'm on the
Like,
same boat.
Actually bad, so.
now, okay, I'm gonna bully you a little bit. Jimmy is a very good player. If you don't know him, his link will be in the description. Check out his runs. He's got insanely good runs. There's some like captions of some of the runs, and you know he's a high skill player, a very high skill
He's a
player,
pro
able
gamer,
to get
yeah.
kills very consistently. His standard of bad is not your typical standard of bad. It's like that. I'm not gonna make the joke I was gonna make. He's basically like, if it's not the perfect disc, it's just straight ass, and that's wrong in my opinion. But you're entitled to that opinion.
Well, I'll send you a screenshot of my 6th slot right now. And this is my best one. If you want to share it.
Okay, all right, I can. All right, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. We'll give it to the chat for safekeeping, but yeah, I'll give you that one. That one is not fantastic at all on the slide.
That's my
yes.
best 6th slot, so it's rough out here.
It's
It
okay.
happens.
I have both
yeah.
Yishin Guang and her engine, and then I also got Zhao and her engine, but I've yet to really get Zhao up to the level that she needs to be, and my Yishin Guang is not effed yet, so it's still work in progress. So
I mentioned before, I'm not pulling Guang. She's more fun than I thought she would be, given all the like content creators and all the early access videos and all that stuff. But I just do not need a character like Guang. My plans to pull come in the form of getting Alice signature and then Alice when the exclusive rerun banner comes up. And then after that, if I get lucky on both of them, then I'll go for Zhao's signature. But that was why I mentioned I had to clear the nightmare with Nekomata and Crypt Bernice, because those two are actually just unironically my highest scoring teams as of right now. I've tried a fair few other things, like Miyabi, like Yanagi. I tried to eat Hari at
Yeah.
Blood's
Oh, no.
request.
Hey, it works. It works.
It works. There's just also like, man, that's That's a spicy meatball, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Those 40% ice reduction, you can feel that. I wonder, by the way, Timmy, did you play this boss with
Timmy.
Yishuan already? Sorry, Timmy, my bad, my bad.
I don't own each one, but on other people's account, I have not.
Okay. Because I wonder how high you can get with Yishuan. That would have been that would have been interesting. Because I tried also many battles from Miyabi, Bernice Yuzuha to even Soldier 11 to Harumasa teams to Koren teams to Yitari teams. That's why also I requested Sevadra a little bit because I'm like a half whale. And yeah, you can fight this boss with plenty of those. So they all work still. My highest score is currently on 32,000 with Corin, Astra, and Dialin. I got the free ults in the first Sun window, but I wasn't able to get the free ults in the second one because my Dialin lacks energy, and with that comes not enough phone points, which you need for generating another ultimate.
Yeah.
So
The second triple ult is like really tight on resources. I learned that when playing with the Nekomata team.
yeah. It's very, very, very hard to manage that. If I would have her signature, it would work way better because that gives a lot more energy. I'm currently
Yeah.
fighting with P4 Hellfire Gears that gives a lot of energy, but still not as much as a signature engine. So that's that. But I mean, honestly, I also got the free purifiers with the quarantine already. That's why I got the 32,000 points. I think with my current setup, I should be able to hit 35,000 points, which is actually pretty good. Like physical agents did a lot of damage. Oh, by the way, I also tried Jane, Vivian, Yuzuha. Jane does perform pretty decent. 25k on the first attempt with that team. So anomaly. That works. And because Vivian and Jane are both M0, I do have to say though, I have user M2. So if you have user M0, I guess it will be a close 20k. Or if you play better than me, maybe you hit the same score as I do. Because I'm not a expert gamer, but I'm usually very well versed all around my agents. Yeah.
I'll have to try that later. But yeah. Like I'm not like letting the dissuade or I'm not letting the like anomaly damage debuff dissuade me from using anomaly. There's just I have so many teams to try, man. Like I have tried like 4 or 5 teams up to this point with like I said, Neko, Miyabi, Kryptonese. I did do a Soldier 11 run at some point, and I've also tried Ellen, and on every team except for Ellen, I've gotten 3 stars. So we're vibing.
Yeah, I mean it is also something. It has to do with the buffs, and because if you check the buffs, they're actually very specific. It's good buffs, honestly, because every agent receives a good buff. I mean, sorry, attack class. The anomaly, for instance, is very interesting because it comes with and the agent anomaly damage against them increases by 20% for 10 seconds. So if you inflict an attribute anomaly, you reduce the defense and you actually gain anomaly damage up to them. And if you check the nightmares description on the second point, the boss anomaly damage taken is reduced to 30%, which means at the end, if you use the anomaly buff, you only fight with a 10% anomaly damage reduction. Even though what's funny, with most of the anomaly teams, you fare way better with Sonata because you allow yourself with more ults to also snack the miasma shield way faster because ults are very strong against miasma shields.
Now
Just
I'm gonna say I don't think that's the Dream Delusion thing that you mentioned is precisely how the like damage or like the damage multiplier works in the in the damage formula. So I
Oh no,
believe
not exactly. Yeah, but it is a counter.
what it would be is like you're getting like a specific multiplier of a damage buff on the agent side of the damage, but the damage taken anomaly debuff on the boss is a separate multiplier. So they don't directly cancel each other out, but it cancels out almost enough. Like it would be in the same way that defense shred and pen ratio are not the same stat, but they both mingle with the same like they both mingle with defense, right? So like, you know, by having more of one or the other, you devalue the other. But
Exactly.
I think this is a similar case because they're on opposite sides of the formulas.
Oh yeah. So like
You guys
it's
wanted to
not
quickly point
perfect.
that out.
It was not perfect math. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I should have explained it a little bit better. But yeah, the anomaly
No, that's fine.
allows you to counter this a little bit. But again, mostly for most of my agent used the Sonata buff because it fared way better than the Dream Delusion, even for my anomaly teams. My Miyabi team way better with Sonata. I used Dream Delusion for my chain team. I actually haven't tried it with Sonata because I got the 25k on my first attempt, which is interesting. Most of my fights, by the way, were first attempts or second, third attempts, which is interesting. So if I would play a little bit better and get a rotation in, I probably could score higher. Corrin is the only team I sweated a little bit, let's say. But yeah, all in all, it's an interesting boss with an interesting mechanic. Oddly enough, many people have positive view on the boss, either saying they like the mechanic behind her. They don't really mind the miasma phase. It is way better than the previous bosses we had in Deadly Assault. It is also it seems like fun to play. And yeah, I even checked some YouTube comments, and there's not much hate like Thrall in comparison, or Fiend, or other bosses we have here, which is interesting when we think about that this boss has the highest HP, but it has less drama than other bosses with less HP. So it's kind of interesting, just for a little side fact.
There
to
is
know.
there is a bit more to that, but yeah.
There's more, sure, but
Were
just saying.
you gonna say something, Jimmy? You're like that. You're like there's sounds coming through on the mic. I don't know if you're trying to like get a word in or not.
No, it's just how my mic is. But I was just gonna say, I haven't had internet for the past week, so I haven't been able to fight this boss properly or test teams. So I literally fought this team like 3 times with Yeshung, and that's it.
I see.
I want
Okay,
to
understand.
I want to say that this boss is what everything I've been asking for a Deadly Assault boss. The fact that the miasmic phase is like multiples technically, and that's one thing I've been asking in the survey, is this kind of boss. So that's, I think, another reason why a lot of people maybe are liking this boss, because it's like very dynamic.
Yeah, the boss is mechanically unique. I think people are also just happy to have a break from the Thrall after like 2 cycles and nearly 5 weeks because of how long the last cycle was. Because Thrall was basically on cycle for the entirety of 2.4 since it was an extended cycle coming into the new year. I think people are just happy to have a break from Thrall. But you know, I'm still a Thrall fan personally, and I'm also
I agree.
a Primordial Nightmare fan. Like I just overall, like I like the uniqueness of the mechanic here. You know, shutdown is kind of just its own thing, but I think it's not too difficult that it's impossible, but is also like a good challenge to the like I don't know, to the player with maybe less reaction time or like not practiced in the methods of learning enemy telegraphs. I think this is a good thing to kind of like invoke that mindset of like, all right, I gotta pay attention to the boss, see what they're gonna do, and like when this specific thing happens, do this specific thing. That's like the fundamental of routing in general. Like whether it's more agent oriented or boss oriented, it's pretty much just routing a boss comes down to finding specific things that the boss is doing and leveraging those. And I think providing that as a actual challenge is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to Shiyu Defense, but before we do that, we have a word from our special sponsor.
That is true. That is actually true. So, let me introduce you our today's sponsor, guys. The Simmer Hot Pot Restaurant at Lumina Square. The spiciness of their food is a notable part of their brand. From the selling of spicy beef as an ingredient to their specialty soup base being dubbed hotter than heaven, which is stated to be super duper spicy by their own employees. The Simmer Hot Pot Restaurant has a notable variety of bases and ingredients, including a set meal called Warm Affection, made for couples that ignites your inner flames and satisfaction, especially during the winter times. Getting hungry already? Well, you won't be for long. Bypass our 2 hours waiting line with these premium VIP tickets for our extra spicy deluxe hot pot menu edition. Only the first 3 comments will receive these tickets if they include what their favorite hot pot dish type is. But wait, there's more to the pot. If you subscribe now, the first 10 new subscribers will receive a all-you-can-eat buffet. Thank you, the Simmer Hotpot, for sponsoring this video. Now, back on track.
Thank you, Simmer Hot Pot, for sponsoring this video. Those are always nice.
Yeah.
I loved them.
We'll briefly mention before we move on for real. We didn't talk about Fiend or Hunter at all whatsoever. There's nothing new about them. Fiend got a HP decrease. Decrease. Hunter got like a bit of an HP increase. Overall, you're kind of just fine. Just use Sonata on every team. It's kind of better than Dream Delusion.
It's better than most buffs. Yeah.
All right. Moving
Let's
on.
move to Shiyu Season 1, technically.
New Shiyu Defense. Oh
Shiyu.
boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right.
So, our special guest, I think, should start with this one. Have you played it already?
I did the S plus clear and then I left. But yeah, I did.
Hey,
That's all we need, you know?
The first
That's-
impression is very important.
That's
Yeah,
better
so
than
it-
mine. So,
I think it's good. I think the only problem I have with it is that you only get the 5 times multiplier in the first minute, which is really rough considering there's a lot of stall in some of the bosses, like Minato. But that's my only issue with it so far.
I can definitely see that. Like, depending on boss mechanics, it's like some enemies are just generally Shiyu unfriendly when it comes to you need to do things in a specific time frame in order to win the video game. It's more boss design than a like Shiyu problem. I have my own gripes about the new concept itself, but I'll let Thirsty and Softy give their first impressions first.
Softy.
so I'm gonna say that I'm not really too much of a fan, but it's still like new, so I'd have to just really get used to it. The scoring is interesting, and I think it does need improvements. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on Shiyu Defense that people have brought out before too, and just be like how scoring could possibly be improved. But other than that, I think that it's an interesting change to Shiyu that I don't know if I'm liking or not liking. Thirsty.
What?
Well, I have to admit it's refreshing to have something new. Like some people already here who listen to more than one podcast know that I love variety. So it is very refreshing to have something new. I scored very decently. I didn't encounter any major problems, but I did play and fiddle around with everything a little bit. And I have to agree that there's one thing that definitely needs to be adjusted, and maybe they will do it, or we have to live with it, and that is the scoring system indeed. It is by far the most critical point most people have about it. It is rather confusing. It is odd that you have this timer that like exponentially goes down after the first minute. And I mean, after thinking a little bit, it is still a speedrun type challenge, just with scores this time around. Because Shiyu was a speedrun challenge for most of the people, and many tried to go sub-minute, sub-minute runs. Which is interesting because this mode we have here are basically matchups for sub-minute runs, just with a little bit tougher bosses. And also the scoring system is based on these sub-minutes run. And everything that goes longer still receives points, but less. We have received new buffs per stage that are actually more general than before. We have 3 different kinds of bosses, and you have to approach this Shiyu with three unique teams and also gear comms, which is the next new challenge. Like, for instance, someone like me loves it that you can't share gear because it brings an extra challenge. But there's plenty of people around that haven't done that. They usually share gear, engines, etc. And they do suffer now a little bit from it, or majorly. It is a front-loaded Shiyu. I have also watched videos. It is an interesting approach of them, and even though it is still a time-based mode that goes with a score at the end result, I think this is not the right place for a longer time. So I hope they will change it up a little bit, honestly, because I think there's something missing that could be improved. I need to think more about it, what they could do. Maybe not adding the points. That maybe this is something we could do. But I mean, I'm liking it for now. But I can see there are some flaws that comes with this new Shiyu.
I think the points technically may be fine. It's just that how they are applied is going to be why they need to change. Because a lot of times, from the videos I watch, it's like you have to play sub-optimally instead of like optimally if you want to get the best point to score. So I think if they were to fix it where you want to get it on your stun windows and that's when you want to front load damage, you get a higher score, that would probably be a better point. But for right now, the scores are mainly dynamic, as in like start of the game or start of the fight, and then it ticks down after a while. So they need to probably fix it a little bit more, the scoring wise, and then maybe it'll improve. But I wish they would have stayed with the time, and just that is what you mainly want to get the best scores through time.
Yeah. I think like the new system is conducive to a particular thing of like Softy said, like doing a specific different type of route action that would result in a slower overall clear, but more front-loaded damage. And with the way that the multipliers work, it's like you really want to get as much damage early on in those high multiplier phases as you can, regardless of how bad it would be for later on. And while I am also in general agreement of like Blood's like sentiment of like it's not bad. I don't actually hate it that much. I think it's like a neat idea. I just also am not, and I think this is a opinion based on my biases for kind of being able to play the game at a higher level. I think this system is designed for like helping the little guy a little bit more in that regard. Because the main thing is if you're going to be hitting a specific time threshold or like trying to do things within a specific time frame in order to deal as much damage as possible in that time frame, then even when the multiplier falls off, you are not specifically punished for doing things slower after that. As long as you're able to finish the fight, I guess like the 5 minutes is a hard cutoff, and like if you don't finish the fight within 5 minutes, you will still like, you know, like it is what it is. But I don't think it'll score you as 0 if you don't do that, or if you like die, for instance, like if you're not able to, you know, react to the boss fast enough, or if you're not able to, you know, do enough damage to clear the floor, whatever the case. Like the score is basically retained for like, all right, you're going to get maybe 2 or 3 rotations of things done, and you will have the score that you get. And as long as you prioritize doing the damage as fast as possible, then most of the time you should be able to get the S rank. And that was like, there's no good way to like put that thought experiment into practice, but I feel like that's the intentional design of the thing, and I'm not able to really leverage that much as someone who's put enough practice into the game to like not need that type of boost. I also think it invokes a couple of bad habits that might be detrimental to players in the future when it comes to like helping them along or dumbing the game down in a little bit of a sense. Like there are certain things where you need to manage your resources in a particular way and hold on to, you know, specific ultimates, specific EX specials, do certain things with your supports at certain times. And if the mentality shifts from the depth of complexity where you need to actually time using those things to a game mode that's focused on use everything as soon as you can, is that a good direction for the end game is my primary concern. I don't think it's the greatest direction, personally. And like I said, I don't hate the concept on its own. I just also think there's more to it than maybe meets the eye from the top of the mountain, as it were.
I think if they maybe for scoring, like, yes, the first minute, like if you get the 5% or 5 times, that'd be fine. But like when you first hit stun, it'll go back to a 5 times or something like that, or higher times. I think that might fix that scoring issue. But again, they still need to work it to get it to that sweet spot, because I actually technically did not get the S plus because I actually did not have the electric. I actually only have one physical DPS, and then I did not have electric DPS, so I was like trying to fight this boss on neutral, and I failed, but at the first time, for at least the gesture. And then when I put Miyabi in, it's helped me out a lot, but still I did not get that S plus, so it sort of brought me down when I didn't get that. But
yeah, my attempts and my S plus have been done with Soldier 11. I've been playing a lot of the buff Soldier 11. So I played her on the first stage with the Covenant Guardian. Then I played Yanagi Bernice into Jester, and then I played Idhari into Monato, and I was able to get like solid 30s for both of the first two stages. I got 35 with Yanagi, and then the Idhari run, I just kind of blasted everything and got 43. And that was also an interesting case of like demonstrating what I was talking about with using your resources as soon as you can. Because not only do I have Idhari, but I also have Lucia, and I activated my M1 on Lucia because I pulled M1, but I didn't activate Lucia's M1 from all the way from when I pulled her on her banner until Christmas Day, because I've been doing a lot of testing with M0, and I have a video in progress about a fair bit of that. But I activated Lucia's M1 is the long and short of that. And I ran into a decibel problem where like Lucia's M1 increases the generation of decibels for every source that you can think of, like regardless of whatever it is. Whatever you get decibels from, Lucia increases it by 5%. And there's a lot more in this game that gives you decibels than you would think when you're not paying attention to it. So when I'm draining Yidhari's HP and I'm used to having 2,500 decibels after a first wave or so, and then by having Lucia's M1, I suddenly have a full ultimate, and I have to not release it early in order to not lose it when I get to the big boss. That's a problem. An unexpectedly fun problem to have. But that also means that I'm basically using a Yidhari ult as soon as Monato spawns, as opposed to doing the save thing for getting it to a stun window. But I'm still getting enough decibels to get another ult at the stun window and then basically nuke the guy down entirely. So it's like, yeah, I'm just using more resources at the start of the fight in order to get more points. And like, I would probably have to do that with M0 Lucia anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. My teams I used were I did slightly an odd thingy just for testing, but also I rushed through it. So my first team was Miyabi, Bernice, and Yuzuha on Monaro. I used Yitari with Lycan and Lucia on Digester. And then I used my Corin, Dialin, and Astra on... what's her name again? The Guardian, the Angel, the Digimon thingy. But yeah, I did S plus it. I mean, I'm not a comparison in this time. I'm close to 120 million. I probably could go higher and go like 450,000. Sorry?
You said million. That's a lot of points.
Oh, sorry, 100, close to 120,000. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I probably could, if I go with Yatari on Monado, I probably could get the 50k. And I do have in mind that I want to try Haramasa, Trigger, and Yusuha on the Chester, because that team goes really hard and is also very front-loaded friendly. And yeah, Corin is my Void Hunter for physical, so she's doing fine. But yeah, like Sevadra said, it is like you or all the others. It is a very front-loaded Shiyu Defense, and you want to do most of your points and also heavy hits like ultimates, etc. You want to have them in the first minute. So the basic principle is get the trash mobs, the waves out there as fast as possible, and then use all your resources for the leftover time you have And then you can focus on stun window and using your energy to kill the boss slowly but steady. But you are basically secured as soon as you do what was the limit for each stage? You S rank at 25,000 points,
Yeah.
which is the half, which is basically 50% of the maximum you can receive. I've watched some people. There's a funny YouTuber like Cats who doesn't read. He just plays in someone's characters. He's super funny, and he did runs with B rank. So yeah, the stage stops at 5 minutes, and you will receive the points accordingly to what you gathered before. There's also a misconception I noticed for some people. No, the points won't get multiplied at the end of the run. The points you see on screen are your current points. So this is important, an important game factor to know. So you want not only to kill the boss as fast as possible, you also want to front load everything into the boss to get to the 25k mark, and then you can start thinking about killing it, or even not. Like, if you do most of your damage during the first minute, or let's say first minute and 30 seconds, because the other ones still count as points, but not as much, you're basically safer than if you try to wait for an optimal time, like a next stun window. It depends also on the enemy, and how fast you can stun, and how fast you can get your resources like ultimates and X specials back. So it's like playing a little rhythm game, and you want to be as quick as possible and that's it.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. I AFK'd a little bit early on, so I don't know if it was mentioned, but another thing that this new Shiyu has in like special factor that has caught a lot more people off guard than I think people were ready for is the fact that this is the first time in this game that we've had a 3-team scenario where you cannot share gear. And that's not me just saying that as the benchmark guy who was already doing this to begin with. That's just not something the game allows you to do. So you have to beat every stage with distinct gear on each agent. And that includes engines and discs. And that also means having 9 fully built characters. And that's maybe not something a lot of people had or were ready for.
Yeah, I think it'd be not everybody, because I think most people are used to the 2 and doing both 2 for Deadly Assault as well, just to be get the 6 stars. So it definitely is
it was already like kind of the case with old Shiyu because of needing to play both of the teams at the same time. But having that third team, I think a lot more people share disc for that third team than maybe they were like ready for. And I personally don't think this is a bad thing. I have always been a like proponent of saving your middling discs because you do not need perfect builds all the time. And like Jimmy.
I was about to point that out.
But you know, it's like it's fine, you know, it's you don't like that's just how I've played the game. I definitely see and understand the min-maxer mentality when it comes to improving builds to the absolute best of their ability and being as efficient with your disc resources as possible. And that's not like a deterrent for like the players who want to do that, but I like kind of figured when I started playing the game that like even though I had no gacha experience at all whatsoever, like I literally played the game with the intention of just having distinct builds and full element coverage on my account to begin with. So I knew in my mind that something like this would come eventually, and I was just more ready for it than everyone else, but I've been seeing a lot of complaints about that specific aspect.
I I'm used to having gear as well for each one of my characters. I do not like switching
I hate
gear.
sharing discs, man. We
It's
need disc
horrible.
loadouts so badly.
Yeah, the Discord loadout is definitely a thing we need. Yeah.
Do you
Jimmy,
guys
are you?
think the
go ahead.
Shiyu is? Do you think the new format is easier or harder than the last format for a base, like just for the polychrome rewards?
I think it's
For the
harder.
polychrome awards,
Or
harder.
Yep.
Because the S rank time for previous Shiyus was just flat out 5 minutes. And that was hard, but I think it was a thing where Shiyu existed for long enough that people were able to get used to that, even if they weren't able to clear it consistently all the time. People had an idea of kind of where their account power lied and what they need to do. Maybe they practiced each of the bosses, and the rotations were kind of samey for a little while up until the end of 2.3 or something like that, where things have been a lot more unique. I think with the standards of this new game mode, I did say it was I think it's meant to help the weaker player a little bit more, but I think there's also now a slightly higher expectation of build quality in order to reach the power level needed to get the benefit of front loading your damage like that, right? Because the way that this works is each of the enemies has their own values for giving score, and those base values are multiplied by the multiplier depending on when you do the damage to them, and that's what is giving the benefit of the multiplier. And that's when the multiplier goes down, if you're doing damage after the multiplier goes down, your score is still getting multiplied, but at a smaller rate. So if you're not able to do something let's say, kill the first 2 waves of the Monato side before a minute is up, then you're not getting the maximum elite enemy and normal enemy bonus for killing them within the 5 times multiplier. And then from that point on, even if you kill it immediately afterwards, all of your Monato score is just going to be capped lower. And that's punishing on its own, because that just means you need to increase your build power. And that's distinctly different from the rest of the mentality of the game, where you could skill your way around that somehow in most situations. I don't think that's as much of a case with this format.
Yeah.
I miss just
So I
having a
think it's a
timer.
little bit harder.
That's
Okay, again?
main thing. I just miss having the timer and fighting the timer compared to the score for Shiyu. But again,
Yeah,
it
I
is
just
the
think
new
it's an
thing.
odd representation, personally. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think it needs a little bit of tweaking.
What did you want to say, Jimmy?
No. What were you gonna say, Sophie? Before I cut
you
you off
wanted to
earlier.
say something.
Oh, I said what I wanted to say. So, I think
I
it's harder, but that's it.
Yeah, it's definitely harder. Because
Since you need 3 teams, yeah.
it
That's
took
for
me
sure.
it took me a couple tries on at least gesture, just because I did not have the elemental advantage against that particular boss. So I just having to play suboptimally to actually get the score, or just to get an S on that one was much harder than my other fights.
Yeah. We get a little bit more polychromes for the new Shiyu type format. It's not that much, but it is a little bit more. And one of the good things, at least, the S plus grade rating is just for bragging rights. It gives you just a minor little extra bonus of Dennis and 160 of the investigation merits. So receiving the polychromes is still in a way user friendly, but not. I think it is less user friendly than it used to be, simply due to the fact that players have to now invest into free teams. I mean, this game is now older than 1 year, so it's like I think the timing is kind of right, but it caught plenty of people off guard, especially those who didn't invest too much before or are just playing it for more on the casual side. There's while you guys were talking, I had a little thought coming up my mind because the scoring system we have has some similarities with the scoring system in the tower, but it is actually reversed. If they would make Shiyu score point like the new tower mode we received, but it scales upwards the more dodges, parries, side by side management you do, because in the tower you can scale it upwards and go to the wonderful golden, I don't know how it's called again, I forgot it.
Supernova.
The supernova, the golden flash, where you receive max points for everything you do, damage-wise and combination-wise. If they would implement this scoring system for the Shiyu, then you would basically give a reason for players to actually get good in the game, and they can start to learn mechanics and really go for the parries, for the dodges, for team combos, for swap combos, like everything that the game offers you, and that is also already in the tutorials we received. If they would implement this in the Shiyu run, then we wouldn't have this odd score problem. I think this would be way better scoring system for the Shiyu particularly than the scoring system we have right now. And it is not that difficult because you can receive those points pretty easily with regular fighting. The less mistakes you do, the more points you receive. And I think this should be possible with your teams. You know what I mean? So I think this would. I think I will write this suggestion into my next survey. The idea vibes with me way more than the current score system we have with the 1 minute and then score goes down. No, make it skill based and get it up with while you're fighting. And the more good stuff you do in the game, the more skilled you are, the more rewards you receive and the more points. I think this would be way better.
I definitely agree with that.
I would tend to agree with you, except
But-
if they're going to do that, they need to remove the thing where you can cheese points with Aftershock by stalling. 'Cause
Yeah,
that is
true.
the major pitfall of the tower scoring system.
True. And maybe that's the reason why they implemented it, why they didn't implement it here in the Shiyu. So yeah, they have to do it with this one. But it is 5 minutes timed. So and the enemies, like what could you do to not cheese it with the Aftershock? That's a good question. I mean, you could leave
They
this
just
to the-
need to change in the code, because the way it works with Aftershock is that agents in the code that use Aftershock attacks are considered on-field and active compared to off-field. And then when the character that you're selecting is also on-field active, those two conditions of having two characters on field at the same time is basically what triggers the shoulder-to-shoulder technique. So it's basically just they need to change like one or two things about how Aftershock is classified in like the scoring method so that they can't get the benefit of like being in shoulder-to-shoulder basically all of the time. Like Trigger is just outright the best character for like scoring farming in the tower, simply because she is the most active Aftershock agent by a landslide and is just on the field the most often. So by stalling out the 10 minutes, you're just able to get the most points that you can. And like that's that was the major thing that was like a pitfall of Tower in their scoring system. Everything else, great, fantastic. I loved it. I
Yeah,
just
me
didn't
too.
like the high-end scoring chasing, just being like, you're standing there doing attacks and refilling Purge in order to let Trigger do her thing until like 5 seconds remaining, and then you kill the boss. Boom.
I see what you did there. Yeah, no, I agree. I think this scoring system would fare way better if they optimize the mentioned things you guys said. Yeah, I think this is way better in general. It would be way healthier also for the end game life we have here in ZZC, because I do love the end game, and some people may have noticed, but we are people who thrive in this, especially with our server. And yeah.
We'll briefly mention very quickly that we've been talking about the new Shiyu 5 this entire time. The remaining, like, they've all basically been consolidated into Shiyu 5. Shiyu 6 and 7 are not there anymore because they're all in the same stage here. And Blood mentioned it very briefly when explaining the mode, but they all have different stage buffs as well. You cannot choose which stage buff you take into which stage. Each stage buff just kind of exists on its own. So for the Covenant Guardian, and this also exists for the lower floors, I think this will probably be a trend where the lower floor stage buffs will apply to Room 1 and maybe Room 1 only. I don't know if they're gonna do a thing where they share the buffs in the other rooms later. But for Room 1 of Floor 5, its attack increases by 30%, crit damage by 15%, and then stun damage multiplier increases by 20%. So just a generally really good attack buff. The second stage buff is focused around damage percent, specifically electric damage by 20%, basic special and EX special attacks doing 40% damage, and ignore 15% of defense. So, hello Seed, how are you doing? But there is, like, it's distinctly different from the Room 1 buff. And then the last room, Room 3 with Monato, focused around ice damage. Ice damage increases by 20%, basic attack by 40. After an agent uses EX special, ice damage additionally increases by 20%. So, hello Yidhari, how are you doing? But yeah, they all kind of cater to specific things. They're more, quote, shilly, I guess. Maybe less shilly than like previous Shiyu buffs that were just straight up like, you need to fulfill this set of mechanics or have this number of agents in your team in order to get the full aspect of the buff. Like, they're generalist for now at least, and I hope they stay that way, but I have the feeling that they may use this to like have at least one room that will simply be miserable without a specific agent in that room. And I hope that's not going to be the case. But that is the general thing with like the buffs that are going on that I just wanted to rehash. Like the lower floors again all share the same buff 1 through 4. And are still the traditional Shiyu format. But yeah.
I really actually do not like that each stage has its own unique buff, because like you said, it's distinct to each boss. That's one reason why the gesture I did not do so well against.
I think
My
if it
lowest
becomes a
score.
thing where each boss comes with its own like distinct buff, much like how the boss mechanics for each boss in Deadly Assault function, I think if it becomes a thing where those buffs are kind of tied to the enemies on each room, then it will probably be okay if they work to intentionally make sure that the buffs are not gonna be like, shield basically. Like, I would be completely fine with something like if they were to, the next time Covenant Guardian comes around, because she was the enemy that came around for the previous patch with Dylan and Banyue, like, if they decide to change the buff so that it only like gives like sheer damage increase or something like that compared to attack percent. But I just generally like generalist buffs, and I think they are good for the balance of the game. Like, I would be okay with them changing the thing to a sheer buff thing if it's going to stay that way, and if it stays the exact same every time. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm asking a bit too much, but it would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, buff-wise, to be honest, when we think that, let's say, Manato is stage 5, Chester is stage 6, and the Angel is stage 7, then it's basically buff-wise. It's like, I mean, it's like one buff per stage, you could say, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you have buffs that also favors if you go with elemental weakness. And I would say it is actually more user friendly for people who, because most of the regular people, they see, elemental weakness, I just go for Miyabi, and Miyabi will receive all the buff, she needs. For Chester, it is the same. There is an electric damage bonus. Interestingly, there is no physical one. They should have added that one. Then it would have been way better. But you can basically go either physical or electrical, and you receive either most or all of the buffs. And I think Room 1 with the Digimon Angel has the most general buff. I say most because I normally don't really care for crit damage, but you still receive, for instance, attack increase and the stun multiplier if you go into stun with the anomaly. It is still there. So they are honestly really good and probably helpful for most of the regular players. But it's like, there's one thing. We are people who really analyze those endgame modes, right? And then other players, like, we say it is easier for the casuals, but it will be only easier for them if they know about it. And most of the time, it is knowledge that is lacking for them to not score as high, because there's plenty of people saying that this Shiyu feels harder than the regular Shiyu, not only because you can't share gear, engines, or whatever, but also because you have to have 3 different teams. And then you have this odd new mechanic where people have to basically read and check it out to understand these things. And until this happens, they will have a very hard time compared to the regular Shiyu they did before and knew kinda what they had to do. So yeah.
Jimmy, what do you think of the new buff system, or like the buffs in general for this Shiyu?
I think they're all right. They definitely seem tailored towards one set of things. But only the biggest problem I have with this issue is that everything is gradually getting really high HP. And it's not just the HP, it's on top of having the main boss have more HP, on top of having waves, which I don't think the buffs really are that strong to account for.
As a quick comparison for the previous Shiyu, and I think the previous Shiyu was just a generally strong Shiyu, but even still, like the previous Shiyu's floor 5, the Wicked Wraith, had 14 million HP, and in this new Shiyu, It's not a huge increase, but it's like 15 million, and it's like roughly the same as if it were like a floor 5, elite enemy, or sometimes even a floor 6 elite enemy. But the Covenant Guardian, which was also on floor 7 of the final Shiyu of last year, it had 34 million HP, and it didn't feel like it had that staggering amount, and we mentioned that in the previous podcast episode. But here in this floor 5 room 1, the Covenant Guardian has 28 million HP, so it went down a little bit. It's probably going to come back up at some point.
Interesting.
The Heretic Jester has the same exact amount of HP as last time, at 25.7 million. So it feels purely worse in regards to the buff that is in play. Yeah, for the Heretic Jester room. And then the third one had the Miasmic Monotoe. And the Miasmic Monotoe has 24 million HP, which is 1 million less than the closest comparison was, well, actually, no, it has actually just pretty much the same exact amount as the Avarice on floor 6 from last cycle. It's 1 million less than the Abyssal Enforcer from that same floor 6. But, yeah, it's not like the things are majorly increasing. I think things are kind of balancing out for at least a little while. And hopefully they will not continue to go up over the course of the next half year. Maybe by the time we reach July of this year, things will just be up an entire 20-30 million, and I will make a note of that and probably talk about it when we get there.
I think the mini mobs helped that they didn't change the HP too much, because the mobs before each boss definitely were an increase, or at least toughness.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, we've complained before about the Flame Cancer feeling like a big beefy guy, but he has 5 million less HP than the Wicked Wraith on the Room 1 battle. And 2 is also more agile is the right word. It's not more aggressive than the Wicked Wraith, but it's more agile and zips around a lot more. So if you focus your aggro on the Wicked Wraith, you're kind of just staying in one place most of the time. But if you're focusing on the Flame Cantor, then the Wicked Wraith will come to you, even though it attacks fairly slow. And I feel like by targeting the Flame Cantor, I've had an easier time on that floor compared to targeting the Wicked Wraith. It didn't feel like a problem of HP specifically, but just the enemies play vastly different from one another.
Right.
So it's that was an interesting challenge to kind of look at and come through.
Yeah, I also had an easier time when focusing on the Flame Cantor, because the Wicked Wraith is always coming to you, even pushing you away from the Cantor, and the Cantor then just jumps back and maybe does another either distance attack or jumps at you back again with a flash. So yeah, I also experienced that focusing on the Cantor made it way easier to kill both of them. Since I played with Corrin, it was quite important to have them at the same, in the same line, because Corrin's ultimate, for instance, really only goes so far and is more single targeted. So it's really hard to manage to kill both in the first stun window. It is possible with other agents that have a better AoE. So there's quite a challenge a little bit here if you have agents like Corrin, let's say. Haramasa is also one of those people that are less AoE than other agents. So you have to consider that, especially if you play with 2 elite enemies.
Final
Yeah,
thoughts.
It's
Oh, go ahead.
it is fascinating. This leads to final thoughts.
Yeah.
The thing that they've been doing for a little while with the like doubling up of certain waves on elite enemies versus not having elite enemies on certain things, looks like it's probably going to change over time. I don't know if it's just a lack of like, people didn't like vibe as much with the waves that didn't have any small enemies before the big boss, or if it's just like this will have to kind of wait and see, because the scoring system does lead to having more normal enemies on each floor. Otherwise, you're like not getting as much score. But every room in the 5th floor so far has at least 2 waves of enemies, and like 2 of them are 2 elite enemies before the big boss, and then the 3rd one is a wave of small enemies and then 1 elite and a couple of small enemies before the big boss. And that would be like the last room with the Huskrons, then the Dalahan, and the Komano Manato. But yeah, we'll have to see how that develops over time as well, because that's a very possible and active thing that they were doing before, and I don't know how much they're going to keep up with it in the future. Because without a certain number of enemies, the score cap cannot reach 50,000. And if this is going to be a global thing, as I believe it's set out that in the actual rules, in the like actual rules for the entirety of the 5th frontier, the maximum total score is 50,000. So because killing a boss enemy gives you at base 8,000 damage score, and when that's multiplied by 5, it's only a maximum total of 40,000. That most likely means if the score cap is going to stay at 50,000, there will have to be another wave of at least some normal or elite enemies in order to make up that other 10,000. So that's generally good for the ease of fighting and building up resources in order to have more to work with in each fight. And that was a thing that we made a point of when they started doing this the first time. It's possible that that's going away, but we'll have to wait and see.
Wait and see, indeed. And with that, we shall end the podcast with that. With all that talk on Shiyu and the new angel that was in Deadly Assault.
Yeah.
Jimmy, where can we find you? Maybe say the whole name.
Just on YouTube. My username's just Dear Jimmy Jr.
Savadra,
What do you do on your YouTube, Mr.
Oh,
Man? Why don't
that's a
you
good
talk a little
question.
bit about it?
I just do some couple of DA clears and rarely Shiyu clears. That's about it.
He's being humble, guys. Don't worry about it.
He's very humble. He's like the ultimate killing machine. He's playing with M0 agents. He has one of the finest skill expressions, and he is also describing in the videos what he is doing. Like, this guy is one of the professional maniacs we have in our Battle Hub Discord server. So this is also a place where you can find him and maybe even PvP and challenge him if you dare it.
He will lose because he sucks with anything that you can ban
Okay.
immediately.
I just don't have agents, man.
Get some.
But if you want to
Thirsty.
see a bringer kill, just go check out my channel.
That's pretty cool.
Let's go.
There's-
And sooner Nightmare kill.
Thirsty,
so.
where can we find you?
Well, Discord-wise, mainly in the Battle Hub and in my private Discord server, but also a few others where I lurk around. You can find me on YouTube with my YouTube channel name Random Blood Gaming. Most of my content is random, but I am someone who covers the end game specifically with end game reports. I had to skip 2.4 report sadly because I got sick over all the Christmas time and New Year's time. So yeah, I will continue with the 2.5 update because it is more important. So this is the reason why I excessively played with the new DA boss, but also with the Shiyu a little bit to bring you a little report for many people's concerns about the end game and if it is still balanced enough, like if it is fair play from the ZZZ devs. Savatra, where can we find you?
I stream on mostly Twitch at twitch.tv/Savadra, and I can say that with confidence because I did do 3 total streams in the past week. It's kind of crazy. I'm a streamer again, guys.
Damn,
But-
who would have thought?
Yeah, I'm streaming on Twitch mostly, but I also upload on YouTube sometimes at youtube.com/@Savadra. I'm a moderator and the co-owner of the Battle Hub Discord server, which you can usually find in the description of these videos. And I also lurk around a fair few other places. If you see my tag in the chat and just want to say hi, just say hi. If you don't, then maybe don't. And it's okay. I tend to focus on like doing a couple of the odd runs, but I also am very much a horizontal diverse player, just kind of overall. My big thing is doing the benchmarks that I've been doing for a little bit. I'm going to do more of those, and I'm also going to start making boss guides again, because I want to do that more. I made one with Priest a long while ago, and I think it's high time, because Primordial Nightmare is a bit of a, well, nightmare for some people. So I want to get myself into gear to do that as well. But yeah, YouTube and Twitch mostly. Discord, I'm all around. I just kind of exist.
I myself am a DA runner, and I do DA runs with a twist. Hopefully my runs recently have been okay, because I feel like I need to rework and learn my agents a little more again. But yeah, you can also find me on the Battle of a Discord server, and yeah, just can find me on any probably Discord server that has Zenless on it. But next podcast we will do a special episode on multiplayer, so be sure to check that out. And otherwise, we're signing out. Take care.
I'll go on.
Be around. Bye.